we get started. We need a motion to accept the agenda, moved by Williams, seconded by Yvonne. Any additions to the agenda? Councilor Yvonne.
Under discussion items, I'd like to have discussion on our playground area maintenance.
Okay, and one other, we want to add an additional bylaw number 45, cemetery board appointment. And so the current bylaw 45 will become bylaw 46. Any other additions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Any declarations of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Seeing none, move right on to the minutes of May 19th, 2026. So moved by Oaker, second by Gillis. Any discussion or any error or omission? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Business horizon to MCL 19. Jenny, anything you want to add?
Not you, Mayor, no. Yeah, if council has questions, I'll know the.
Any questions for the clerk? Not seeing any. We have a motion that is moved by Patrick, second by Resolved that the county council service article 3.0, 1926, business horizon to amendment of May 19th, 2026. Meeting this information. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Number 5, so looking at the list here, Councilor, you want to talk about playground maintenance now?
Sure. So it's come up as an item of discussion with Durham Center Hall Board, and I know Mount Elgin has the same problem. The thistles are overtaking our playground areas, and it's a health and safety concern. The staff have in their health and safety reports indicated that this is a potential avenue of injury for kids. And to the point where some of the hall board members are getting frustrated and indicating that they might quit over it. The problem is that the mitigation efforts recommended are ineffective, have been ineffective for a long period of time. Part of the problem is that the material that required, i.e. the park mat or the mulch product that we're required to use around playground structures is essentially a planting medium for weeds. And so they take root, especially as the mulch deteriorates down into the lower levels, the weeds take root and they're popping up, and the volunteers don't have time to maintain to get the weeds all pulled. Now staff has recommended that we remove the Durham Center, at least remove all the mulch, take out the landscape fabric, put down new fabric, and then put in new mulch. Just having added mulch to the playground structures runs us between $500 and $1,000 a year. An effort like that, even if staff completes it for us, is going to be significant cost and take care of a good chunk of the fundraising for the year. And so volunteers are getting rightfully frustrated to the point where they're saying, we're not doing this anymore, we're just getting tired of it. Several of us farm for a living, even on the Durham Center Hall Board, we have products in our possession that we know would work on this. And so I'm wondering if there is any avenue that we can either go to the legislative authorities and get permission to use these products, have a licensed applicator come in and use them. Can we get rid of the mulch altogether and go back to pea gravel? Because in my mind, the mulch is no more accessible than pea gravel ever was. The rubberized material that they've used up at Hilltop Park is largely unaffordable for a lot of groups. And so that's not really an option either. I posed a question in an email chain on stream last week. Could we perhaps do something like what they do at tobacco greenhouses, where they steam the dirt from time to time to sterilize weed seeds or whatever? And I'm going to be meeting with a couple of tobacco farmers tomorrow night at the Long Point region, and I'll ask them about that process and how effective that was. But we're looking for options that are actually going to be solutions, not just bringing dish soap on these stupid things so that we can feel good about having done something when it actually does nothing. And so I don't know who sets the rules for this stuff, but we've got to get serious about this problem because it's really, really frustrating, and it's driving people to want to quit the hall board.
Good. Any comments from council? We have any problems elsewhere?
I don't, I'll ask the Folds, but I'm not aware of it.
I didn't see anything there.
No. We're having a lot of weeds, not necessarily this, but definitely a lot of weeds, which comes up in the report all the time, for corn weeds and whatever. But it's an organic material, what's the problem? You can take it out and it'll just come like that.
Good.
I was looped in on that email chain, and Daryl and I just talked about that yesterday morning, so we are calling around with stock as well as consumers to see what they're using in their parks and looking to see what spray options. And we realize that it may mean that we have somebody come in and spray, we may have to stop for a week or so, but we're looking to see. And once I have some information with Daryl, I'll be back.
Don, I knew you were part of that conversation, but I wanted to have the broader conversation here at council, to raise awareness and see if the other parks are having the same issues. I know the two that I cover do. And, we've got to get something that's more permanent.
Okay, so we'll leave that with staff and you'll get back to us. Okay, thanks, Steve, for bringing that up. It's now 9:05, it's time for the first of the public meeting, so because we're going into the public meeting for a zone change application for Peter and Sylvia Librarian. Come on up to the table if you would, please. Here. Yes, that table, please. We're now in a public meeting, which means that the planner will go through the report. And then council has an opportunity to ask any questions for clarification. And then yes, well, you have an opportunity to comment, any comments you want to make. Then we ask anyone public that wants to speak in favor of the report. And then eventually the council will debate and make the decision. So
Great, thank you, Carrie, members of council, members of the audience. I'm here to present an application for zone change 742604. So Peter and Silva Duval, who are here today, so nice to meet you. And before I start, I'd like to thank them for providing all the information I requested. So thank you very much for doing that. The subject plan, so basically their application for zone change is to convert the existing garden suite that was established in 2014 by council to a detached ARU, additional residential unit. So no new development is planned or proposed as part of this application. It's a straight conversion. So the subject lands are 1.9 hectares or 4.7 acres. The property currently contains a principal dwelling, accessory structures, and farm buildings, and all of those will be maintained. So the garden suite is 75 square meters or approximately 807 square feet. And as I mentioned, it was established in 2014 by council. The property is serviced by private well and septic. The Campbell Municipal Drain runs across the property, and the garden suite is located approximately 250 meters or 705 feet from an active rail line. The surrounding uses are predominantly agricultural to the east and west, and there are other rural residential uses to the north and south of the property, and the village of Mount Elgin is located to the north of the property. In terms of the planning legislation, the property is designated agricultural reserve in the official plan, and the existing zoning is special limited agricultural zone A19, and they are requesting to just amend this zone. So in the current zone, the A19 zone requires a minimum lot frontage of 168 meters, a minimum lot area of 1.8 acres, and it permits a temporary garden suite of up to 75 square meters. So basically, the existing zoning recognizes the property as it is. ARUs are permitted in the agricultural reserve, and they are permitted on properties zoned A1, subject to meeting specific policies in the official plan and specific criteria, including a lot size, distance from the principal dwelling, and meeting MDS, so minimum distance separation requirements. ARUs are intended to remain secondary to the principal dwelling and be located with the same general cluster of the other residential dwellings. In terms of consultation, we sent out the notice of complete application on April 17th, 2026. The notice of public meeting was sent out May 13th, 2026. We did not receive any comments from the public regarding this application. In terms of feedback received from the agencies who were circulated, we did receive one comment from the rail line. And due to the proximity of the garden suite to the active rail line, they did recommend that In the event of sale of the property, that a specific condition be inserted into all property and tenancy agreements or future offers of purchase and sale, basically, speaking to the potential noise and vibration from the rail line. And that they would need to access the right of way for any railway maintenance. So these are standard clauses that the rail line typically asks to be inserted in agreements. So the garden suite has functioned effectively for just over 10 years. It's not being altered in any way. And staff believes it can be reasonably reclassified as a permanent additional residential unit. The size of the subject property meets the minimum property size for a detached ARU. The size of the ARU is less than 50% of the principal dwelling, so it will definitely remain secondary to the principal dwelling, which is one of the criteria for detached ARUs. There's sufficient space on the property for parking, for access, landscaping, and amenity space and maintenance. The ARU or former garden suite will continue to use the same vehicular access to the road. So it's essentially, it's not anticipated that converting the garden suite to an ARU will result in any conflicts, and the location of the ARU will continue to remain compliant with the required minimum distance separation 1 setbacks. So planning staff are of the opinion that the proposal is appropriate and in keeping with the objectives and policies of the official plan with respect to detached ARUs, and recommend the zone change application be approved. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Any questions from council? Councilor Pickard.
I noticed something I haven't seen before in your report, which you actually contacted Canada Post about the mailbox. Is this something new?
Through you, Mayor Mayberry, Canada Post is part of our circulations on all planning applications. Typically, we do not have any comment on applications, but in this case, they did.
Good.
They're part of the circle.
Any other questions from council? Okay, the applicants, any questions or comments you want to make on your application?
Covered it really well, actually. And the railroad is across 19, Highway 19, so it's not even on our side of the property. So I mean, if there's any issues there, they're gonna be dealing with Highway 19.
Well, railway likes to cover themselves for virtually everything, so
I
I'm
understand.
surprised you got what they commented, so. You're in favor with the recommendations of the report to approve?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone in the audience want to speak in favor of the application? Anyone in the audience want to speak opposed? There's no one on virtual. All right, we're back to council for discussion. Any questions or comments from council? We have to go to the public meeting, right, to make a decision. Yeah, okay. Any questions, Councillor Pickard?
I think we should approve it. Recommendation, we approve it.
When we get out of the public meeting, we can do that. Any other questions or comments? My only comment or question would be, apparently it's been satisfactory for the last 12 years. And the building official isn't here to ask, but it's an appropriate building for like as far as any changes between a garden suite and an ARU as far as concerns from the building official.
Through you, Mayor Mayberry, no, there were absolutely no concerns with respect to building code or the fabric of the dwelling itself.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, then we'll rise from the public meeting, and Councillor Pickard, I think you have a motion.
Make motion, we approve.
We have a second there. Second by Yetna. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those, that's carried. Okay, so that's carried. There's a 20-day appeal period from the time the decision is mailed out, which would be tomorrow. Not that you're gonna do anything anyways, but anyone, no, not anyone can appeal this. This is the council can appeal, the minister can appeal, or you can appeal. So that's it, right? I'm learning, so, new rules from the province, so it changes everything. Anyways, as long as you don't appeal, I'm pretty sure we're not gonna appeal, and I doubt the province is gonna appeal, but in 20 days, don't know. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Now 9:15, and we went to the committee of adjustment, the motion to the committee of adjustment, moved by George, second by Garrett. Any discussion, all those in favor, opposed, that's carried. We have second, all right. Okay, we're now on the committee of adjustment, need a motion to accept the agenda, moved by Gillis, second by Wade. Any discussion, all those in favor, opposed, that's carried. Any declaration of hearing, the general nature thereof. Seeing none, we have minutes of the December 2nd, 2025 committee of adjustment. Moved by Yetman, second by Pickard. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, first application is, for Kevin Patton. 5626 Pickard Line. Kevin, you want to come up to the table, please, and Spencer, this is yours. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Oh, just so, basically the same format as the last meeting, but we're now committee of adjustment, which really means we're judge and jury on this case.
That's it.
Rather than council, which you don't all notice difference, so. Okay, go ahead, please, Spencer.
Okay, good morning to council, staff, members of the public here this morning. The application before the committee at this time, A 07-24, is a familiar application to this committee as it was deferred in 2024 when it was initially before you. The application seeks two areas of relief from the township zoning bylaw. One, as it relates to the maximum cumulative GFA for accessory structures. And the second, as it relates to the location, the permitted location for additional residential units. I will highlight for the committee that there's a difference here between the variance requested and the variance recommended. Between 2024 and today, the applicant did have an opportunity to go before Upper Thames Hearing Committee and has essentially resolved the second point of the variance requested, which is about the location for where not permitted. And just by way of background, that's because the applicant has demonstrated that the floodplain component of this has been satisfactory to the Upper Thames Hearings Committee. So where it says variance recommended, should the committee choose to approve this report today, this application today, they would be approving the variance recommended rather than the variance requested, as the second of the variance requested is no longer necessary. By way of background, the property itself on Pickard Line is approximately 94 acres in size, predominantly agricultural lands, where it is identified in the county's OP as containing unstable soils, as well as a large area of floodplain associated with the Reynolds Creek drain. And the applicant in this case is proposing a detached additional residential unit within an accessory structure. So the numbers are provided for committee throughout the report, but essentially it's a 3,000 square foot shop. Approximately half of which would be utilized for the additional residential unit component. So throughout the report, largely similar to what this committee saw in 2024, there were some key updates in that Mr. Patton has gone before Upper Thames and now secured the necessary approvals from their hearings committee with respect to the proposed location of the structure. The other thing I would highlight for committee is just with respect to the proposed GFA. It is with the township zoning bylaw cumulative figure. So there is an existing detached garage on the property now, which is why the figures throughout are just over 3,500 square feet as opposed to the 3,000 square feet, which would be the structure that's being proposed at this time. Staff are of the opinion that that structure represents not an appropriate deviation from the township zoning bylaw, and that 2,000 square feet is intended as the cap. Just over 3,500 square feet. We're not of the opinion that that is minor in nature, nor desirable or appropriate for the property. That said, the report contains all of the various updates that have taken place between when this report was initially before this committee and today. Staff are not supportive of the report today, not supportive of the application rather today, but I'm happy to take any questions, and the applicants are here to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Spencer. Any questions for Spencer? Seeing none, Councilor Yvonne.
Thank you for you, Spencer. So then are we only really dealing with the one requested or recommended variance then? Instead of two?
Through the chair, that's correct. So the application speaks to two areas of relief. However, because the applicant now has the clearance from the Upper Thames, they no longer require that area of relief from the township zoning bylaw because the specific wording is without clearance or approval from the conservation authority having jurisdiction. They now have that. So that's no longer necessary relief for them. So they would just require relief, should the committee choose to approve it. That's outlined in the variance recommended for the 332.6 square meter size of the structure.
Any other questions? Councilor Booker.
Regards to the direction of the unstable soil, what are they considering it? Why is it being unstable?
Through the chair, the county OP identifies natural hazard lands, so areas of floodplain, erosion hazards, including unstable soils as well. Those are all classified in the PPS and the county OP as hazard lands. That said, oftentimes it's not uncommon to see areas of floodplain associated with also erosion hazard or unstable soil, so they kind of get grouped in together sometimes. In this instance, I know the Conservation Authority did provide comment on that and require direction on that with respect to eventual flood proofing of this structure should it be approved. And that in turn would address in part at least the unstable soils component of that. But really it's a mapping feature that shows all of the areas throughout the county that have been flagged as unstable soil based on the data we have from the Canada Land Inventory of the Wars.
Any other questions? Just have one quick one. Do you remember what the square footage of the current house is?
I think it's 3,200 square feet is in the report.
Yeah, something like that, okay. So 1,300 square feet for an ARU is 50% of qualifies, that's not an issue.
Correct, and the report does demonstrate, one of the updates to the report is just that in isolation, the size of the ARU or the size of the shop, without the ARU. Independent of each other may be appropriate, but it's that cumulative GFA, which is what the zoning bylaw recognizes of going from over. Because ARUs are classified as accessory structures, we do not feel it's minor to go from 2,000 square feet, which is permitted, to over 3,500 square feet.
So if you built the ARU, Spencer, as a separate building, forget about the shop, they built it as a separate building, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
We would be, because again, it's cumulative. So that GFA pertains to accessory structures and ARUs.
I know, but there isn't this, the 3,000 square feet that we're talking about for a shop and building. If they only built the 1,500, it would still be over 2,000.
They would be. They have an existing 581 square foot garage.
So 500, so we would be 100.
Correct.
120 something, okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? The buttons, anything you wanted to comment?
Mr. Mayor, councilors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. It's just interesting. We provided a document 2 years ago about the soil. It came from a registered well that was drilled 30 years ago. The geotech is registered with the Ministry of Natural Resources. It's available for anyone to go online and see it. And if I could just read, since Councilor Bugner brought it up, it says that it's sand, clay, stone, packed, heavily dense. This is a geotech from a well 30 years ago. So if anyone is really concerned about some of the information that's presented, it's based on, I think Spencer said, historical mapping from the province or something like that, and not actual facts of the actual site. So the only other thing is, what we're talking about is the 500 square feet structure that he's talking about that is putting us into this area. It's a farm. I built a small garage for my side-by-side and lawnmower with Mr. Lovell 30 years ago, standing on the pad when we got our final inspection. About 10 years ago, we added a movable, it's portable, it's not permanent, storage shed on the property, which is going to be moved to make room for the new proposed ARU. So I guess to clarify some of the comments that are made about what's actually happening on the property. The 3,000 square feet is a dry shed. Most people in this room are familiar with what a dry shed looks like. complementary to a farm. Instead of putting a shop in one end, we're opting to put an ARU, a two bed. We currently have 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, office, and 1,000 square foot garage on our current home, so the size to me is appropriate. It's a little bigger than what I presented 2 years ago, because when we had to take it to engineered drawings to obtain the S-28 permit, my wife and I want to have this structure to be handicap accessible, wheelchair accessible. It would only make sense at our age to be building something for the future that is done that way. Wider hallways, wider work areas and kitchen and showers require a little more space. So that's the only reason it's slightly larger than what we proposed 2 years ago. You need a garage that's big enough to put a vehicle in that could have a ramp mechanism to unload a wheelchair if necessary. So everything that we have proposed is exactly what we asked for 2 years ago, and the functionality of it goes along with making the ARU exactly what we need for the future, exactly complements what we need on the farm.
Anyone in the public want to speak in favor of the application? Anyone in the public want to speak opposed to the application? Will anybody online? Seeing none, we're back to council. Questions and comments from council, please. Or sorry, from the Committee of Adjustment. Councilor Yarborough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the patents. How long have you lived on the property, Kevin?
31 years.
And in that amount of time, how many times has the road been unusable due to flooding?
0.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Groves.
Just a comment through you to the chair. I know that it's suggesting a larger area than we normally recommend, but why not? I think the purpose of ARUs is still to try and help family or members have a place to stay or live at. And I think this would help the owners stay in their residence or at least property as long as they possibly can. So I do feel it is a good fit for the size of the property that I've brought up.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Ward.
Yeah, through the mayor to you. I agree that this proposal is larger than what we normally would allow. But it is out in the middle of nowhere. Technically, it's the only house on the road between Prowse and Daniel. There's no residence across the road at all. So it is a little out, larger than what we, but it is agriculture. And this building is going to look like a dry shed, which blends in with the neighbor down the road that has a big dry shed, and around the corners that have dry shed. It's like I don't know it's a proper term, it's a barndominium, right? I don't know if that's in your vocabulary at the county level as a barndominium, but that's what it is. It's gonna blend in with a rural countryside. And like I say, the property's 94 acres, so I don't have an issue with that. So,
Seems to me, Councilor Ward, that the first property north of this, on the same side of the road, as an ARU as well. It was half a mile up the road.
but, so, yes,
So
That's
it's not in
okay.
the middle of nowhere. I was, that was.
well, I'm saying he's the
That's
only
a
house
definition.
between Prowse and Daniel, and there's one house between Daniel and Mount Elgin Road where that other area is. So there's not a lot of residents. If you go from Prowse all the way north to Mount Elgin Road, there's only 2 properties. The Patton is one of them, and the other one is where that other ARU is, so there isn't
It's only half a mile now.
half a mile.
I meant just that, Mr. Mayor, to add to that point is that he has a 6,000 square foot shed on that property with a permanent residence with an area.
And a full-time farm, or a farm, so, correct. Anyways, don't want to get into the debate. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Yarborough.
I would just comment that, yeah, I'm well familiar with the property as well, and since we've gotten the approval from Upper Thames, I have no problem with this. I think the structure will fit in quite well.
Any other? So unfortunately, either Daniel or Adam are here today. So, I guess the CEO will answer the questions. If I remember right, the Reynolds Creek actually is heading west. Water's going west, maybe your place, right? And, as soon as it crosses Pickering Line, it's no longer such a township, which means that we have no control over the kind of maintenance or not that gets done immediately south of this, or sorry, immediately west of this property. Which, and you know, to the point, hasn't flooded in 30 years, really, the water come up close to the edge of the road. I haven't been down there,
Yeah.
but it's never been over the road that I ever saw. So, and that, my only concern is, are we having good relationships with the neighbors to make sure that Mountain Street doesn't get flooded out? And we'll get a flood not just here, but, further north. Because, in my mind, that's the biggest concern. That would be my biggest concern, this side of the building, or an ARU in the building, it would be, if there was gonna be a flood, it would probably be because of a lack of maintenance further to the west. Which is, Upper Thames. But if it's another municipality that we don't have any control over. Any comments?
I think if we speak with Daniel about that, there definitely could be some maintenance done on the portion west of the boundary. Daniel was going to speak with the drainage superintendent. About that. We have done maintenance on Rance Creek drainage in the last several years, within attachments of the Stossford boundary, and Daniel's not concerned about that portion.
I'm not concerned about that portion because it's not actually going to affect this property. What I am concerned about is if our neighbor doesn't take care of it, it is our property, which we're potentially about to give permission to build an ARU on. That is going to be impacted. Right, and we don't have really any control or ability to order them to clean out the, you know, the 5 fallen trees that, you know, 2 or a mile down the road or a mile down the drain.
Other than request maintenance from them.
But okay, that's my concern.
Mr. Mayor, just to your point, I requested 10 years ago to Daniel and Travis in Middlesex and Karen Whitfield from the Upper Thames, that with the addition of the Mount Ogden subdivision, with modern day farming practices going to tile installed at 25 feet and 30 feet instead of 50 and 60, the water is reaching the drain twice as fast as it used to. And if there was ever a need for a maintenance schedule on drains, now is the time. And that went out in an email. Replies were 0. Verbally, Daniel and Travis replied that they didn't have the resources to monitor the drain adequately enough at their disposal, and the Upper Thames, no response at all. So I to your point, is that also we are building above the Ontario regulatory flood level. That's how you get the permit. So if you're concerned about my property, there is a world of hurt awaiting lots of people besides me to that point. But again, I wholeheartedly support your idea that it is high time that the drain is addressed as far as the regular maintenance schedule. That goes without saying.
So the reality is in this situation, everybody that's pre-built, there's nothing we can do about it. Right about you make another an additional potential problem. Anyways, that was we'll leave it to the CAO to deal with that. Any further questions or comments? We need a decision then. Moved by Yetma, seconded by Gillis, and motion would be
To approve.
to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. 20 days from the decision going out tomorrow. You should be able to get a building.
20 days from the decision of the 8th, so
20 days from today.
20 days from today.
Oh, okay. All right, so 20 days from today, you should be able to come in and get a building permit.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. The next one is for Don and Julie Glenn. We want to come up to the table and. Laurel, this one's yours, right?
That's right, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay, basically the same process. We're still in the committee of adjustment, and Laurel, go ahead, please.
Thank you, 3 of you have been very members of council, and John and Julie, thank you for being here, and again, thank you for providing all the information and working with your consultant, it's great as well, so thank you for that. So this is an application for a minor variance for 379 Golden's Line. Essentially, the purpose of the application is to convert the existing dwelling on the property to a detached ARU on the property. So the subject lands are 0.66 hectares in size, which is 1.63 acres. They have frontage on Golden's Line. The property does contain, as I mentioned, a dwelling. It's 87.8 square meters or about 945 square feet. Single detached dwelling. There are 2 sheds on the property, which will be maintained. It's serviced by private well and septic. The surrounding uses are mainly agricultural. There are properties to the north and the east that are also being used for rural residential purposes. In terms of the designation, the property is designated agricultural reserve in the official plan. It's zoned residential existing lot in the township of Southwest Oxford zoning bylaw. So as I mentioned, they would like to permit a single detached additional residential unit in the front yard of the subject property. The reason for this is they have a proposal to construct a new 314.4 or about 3384 square foot principal dwelling on the east side of the subject property. So once that is constructed, the existing building would technically be in the front yard of the subject property. We permit ARUs in the side yard and the rear yard, but not the front yard. So they do need to request permission to do that. The initial application, I'd like to note, requested relief from MDS 1, so minimum distance separation 1. Setback requirements, however, the chief building official did review the proposal and is satisfied that the proposal complies with MDS 1. So there are no conflicts with respect to the location of the ARU and MDS 1 requirements. So detached ARUs are permitted in the agricultural reserve designation as long as they meet specific policy criteria as outlined in the official plan. They are also permitted in the residential existing lot zone, again, as long as they meet certain criteria provisions in the zoning bylaw. So notice was provided on May 7th, 2026. We did receive, the township clerk received 1 phone call about this application, and it was just a general interest, what's going on phone call. So there were no concerns at all. In terms of consultation with agencies circulated on the applications, as I mentioned, the township chief building official has no concerns at all with the application. The township public works superintendent has no concerns with the proposal. They do support a new driveway access onto Clark Road. So part of this is the applicants would like to switch the driveway access from Golden's to Clark Road. And there are no concerns with that at all. Oxford County Public Works mentioned that they have no concerns with the proposal, no objection to an access on Clark Road. However, the access on Golden's Line would need to be removed to the satisfaction of the county if they do have the access on Clark Road. So essentially, we allow 1 access per property. So as I mentioned, the official plan does permit detached ARUs outside of settlement areas. And the proposal to convert the existing dwelling to a detached ARU does maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan with respect to providing housing, and the location, size, of the proposed ARU does meet all the policy, criteria. So it will remain secondary to the proposed new dwelling. It will share an access, a driveway access. There's enough room on the property. The property meets the minimum size requirements for a detached ARU. So it's also generally consistent with the zoning bylaw criteria regarding detached ARUs outside of settlement areas. There is sufficient space, as I mentioned, on the property, and I'd also mention that the owners are proposing to retain and preserve as many mature trees on the property as possible, which is another important criteria that we look for. The well will be shared between the proposed new house and the ARU, although there will be a new septic system. As I mentioned, the driveway access will be shared and the ARU is located within the maximum distance that we require between ARUs and principal dwellings. It's not anticipated, because the dwelling has existed in that location since about 1935, that converting it to an ARU, and the ARU being in the front yard will result in any land use conflicts. It maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. So we are of the opinion that the proposal is appropriate and in keeping with the objectives and policies of the official plan. Recommend that the minor variance to permit a detached ARU in the front yard of the property be supported. Subject to the condition that if there's new access on Clark Road, the existing access on Fulton Slide is permanently closed to the satisfaction of Oxford County Public Works. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions from committee? Councillor Gillis.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the plan. So if access is changed to Clark Road from Forbes line, obviously the site address will then change to Clark Road. Well, then technically, the ARU would then be in the side yard, not the front yard.
Through you, Mayor Mayberry, the frontage is always measured. By the,
You're right.
through you, Mayor Mayberry, Councillor Gillis is correct, so it would be in the external side yard. So the only variance required is to permit a detached ARU property. The reason it is. Pardon?
No, there's no business separation, is there?
Pardon me? I'm sorry.
Isn't there a minimum distance separation problem?
Through your memory, very no, the ARU meets the minimum distance separation one requirement. The proposed new dwelling, a portion of the garage would be within the MDS one arc. The CBO reviewed this and determined that because the garage is non-habitable space, he does not have any concerns with that. So since the principal dwelling isn't built yet, the frontage is still where it is. Technically, right?
I'm just reading your report. Variance is requested, number 2. Minimum distance separation and the.
The variance requested and the variance recommended are two different things, so we determined that the MDS one is not, that variance is not required.
Okay, Councillor Gill, sorry.
Yeah, I just, so when that address and that language change, that technically changes that from a front yard to a side yard. So that automatically solves that problem. So in my other comment, I was like, that house has been there for a long extended amount of time. It is like a smaller side and I don't feel it's appropriate.
Okay, any other questions from council? Councillor.
I guess one thing that struck me about this application, Mr. Mayor, is we currently have an access off of Fulton's line. Removing it onto Clark, which makes it a township road. Why does the county automatically have the right to demand that existing driveway is removed?
It's on county property.
But this application doesn't affect the county whatsoever.
No, but they get one driveway. I mean, their property owner is the same as your property owner and property owner. Your property, your rural, your property, you get to keep. Anyway, any other councillor?
As to, it's probably, the nearest to the four corners that they would want that driveway removed. Because it'd be a hazard.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Mayberry, just two points, to Councilor Gilling's point, the frontage is technically the shortest distance on a road. So even though their access will be on Clark. And it's the front yard of the property, technically the front, so I'm just saying. Technically, I have to accommodate for that, so that's why they do need that. So, and the, regarding the access, the, criteria to close the one access is because properties are only permitted to have one access onto.
In place those two.
Okay.
There's no rural residential, it's farm, so that's a different state. Anyways, any other questions, and then we can get to the applicant and they can make any comments. Not seeing any other questions to the applicants. Julie, any comments you want to make?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'd just like to thank you for considering this, and it's gonna be a large benefit to our family. And
We have our son and daughter-in-law carrying on our farm. That means an awful lot to us. I'd like to commend Laurel and Mandy Alves for the great communication back and forth as well. We really hope that you pass our application today. Thank you.
Good. Any in the audience want to speak in favor or oppose? No one online? So, back to, maybe for the, questions or comments, Councilor Wade.
I don't have issue, I think it's a great idea, I'm just trying to figure out where this driveway is going to be exact, so. The ARU, the existing driveway will move to the west a little bit, and then go north up to Clark Sidewalk, correct?
No, the existing one is on Fulton's line.
Yeah, and that one's going to be closed.
That was gonna be closed.
So that driveway will now head to the west.
It's gonna come off of Clark.
Yes. The west and the north,
And
to the house.
Go down to the next.
It'll go south towards the house.
Yeah, there, sees. Move south a little bit.
Okay, got you now.
And then
Answered my question,
we've got
thanks, Paul.
directed down to the other
Yes,
house.
okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? This report? Gotcha. So a couple of things, or one comment was, it's nice once in a while to get a minor variance application. It's actually a minor. And not a major variance, and I raised that particularly around the MDS. But, so that's actually kind of nice to see, that, people are trying to live within the rules. So. Any other questions, comments? We have motion now. Moved by Booker, second by Ellison, the motion would be Councilor Booker.
To approve the minor variance.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, that's carried. Again, 20 days, and then you're welcome for a building permit.
Like you can start the building permit process application before the 20 days is up, but you just won't get the permit until that to agree.
Again, either you appeal, we appeal, or the minister appeals. That's your 30 seconds. Under many of the the same rules.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, okay.
Council or the owners.
But, okay. So, behave yourselves and everything will be fine. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Either motion had to rise from the committee of adjustment, boy, it's got to be adjourned, but so adjourning from the adjustment, moved by Yellow, second by Ricker. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, that's carried, and we're now back in the council, as soon as they get up. Take care.
Thank you.
So I think we're at staff reports, where we're going to the beginning. So we're gonna move right on to council remuneration and really like.
We do have, Carrie and Hannah from Warden Dr. Grove with us today. They're online via Zoom, so they have a presentation here, so I think, we'll turn it over to them. Let them proceed with the presentation. Carrie and Hannah, can you hear us?
Good morning. Yes, we can hear you. Hi there.
Morning, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Are we able to share our screen? I think actually they've got your stuff. Julie, will you advance the slides for us or? Oh,
I just.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay, thanks. Can you see our screen then?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. We'll get started. All right, so Carrie and I completed a review of council remuneration to ensure that compensation remains fair, competitive, and aligned with market practices for the upcoming council term. So we have some results to present in this presentation to council this morning. So the review was conducted with objectivity and transparency in mind, removing bias in setting the annual council honorarium, and also ensuring that consistency was applied to align with how staff compensation is determined. So the role of council has changed significantly in recent years, with Southwest Oxford experiencing population growth and increasing complexity in community needs. Council is responsible for strategic decision-making across infrastructure, development, public safety, as well as community services. So it's really no longer a volunteer-style position, as it does require significant time, experience, and accountability. In addition to that, there's also several factors overall that are shaping the municipal council role today. For example, there's a decline in civic engagement and increased public polarization. Introduction of strong mayor powers has also changed the council landscape as well. Increased time commitment, including preparation and community interaction. There's also greater public visibility of council through social media, including some potential exposure to criticism and harassment from the public. As well, many members balance council duties with full-time jobs or personal businesses that they are managing. So these factors reinforce that the role is both demanding and evolving, which is important when considering the annual honorarium. So our review focused primarily on the annual honorarium, which compensates members for attending meetings and performing council-related duties. We did conduct market benchmarking using comparable municipalities. In the past, the township has historically targeted the 50th percentile or P50, the middle of the pack for staff compensation. So we have used that same approach for the council honorarium as well. And the key finding is that the current honorariums are below market, lagging by about 13.61% on average. So based on the findings, we recommend aligning the honorariums to the market median at P50. And it's recommended to implement this change effective November 15th, 2026 at the start of the new council term. This timing ensures fairness and avoids any perceived self-interest when setting the council honorarium. And the financial impact of this recommendation is about a $14,306 increase annually. So this represents an 11% increase overall in total honorariums for the mayor position and all council positions. So this provides a breakdown of the current 2026 annual honorarium in comparison to the market median at P50. So the mayor position would increase to about $30,000, and then the councillor positions would increase to $18,759 roughly. So these adjustments bring the township in line with the comparator municipalities. And we're not recommending changes to other elements like per diems or allowances, as practices do vary widely across municipalities. So our recommendation is just related to the annual honorarium at this time. And from a financial perspective, the current honorariums represent about 0.44% of the 2026 operating budget. And with the recommended adjustments, this would increase to about 0.48% of the operating budget. So the overall budget impact is quite minimal overall. So in conclusion, competitive honorariums help attract and retain qualified individuals. They also support broader participation in municipal governance. And entering a new term below market compensation creates long-term challenges for the full 4-year cycle of council. So aligning to market ensures fairness, sustainability, and strong governance moving forward. So now we'll open it up to any questions that council may have related to this.
Okay, thanks very much, ladies. Any questions from council on here? Councilor Becker, please.
On the one slide, you talk about adopt P50, it says total annual cost increase 14,306.11. I don't understand where that figure came from.
600, 1,600 and 145. That came from 6 councillors getting $1,600 increase and the mayor getting a $4,500 increase.
Oh.
That's where the cost increase is. Any other questions? So I have a couple. First of all, knowing that no matter what this council does, the next council can change it the first meeting there, right? So I think the intent is to, are we trying to do something for the next council to kind of help them move forward, right? Because addressing your own wages is always a bit of a challenge. So and this not starting until the next term of council would make sense to me. A couple of questions then for Warden Updegrove. First one, currently when you look at the list of municipalities that we're comparative to, our budget is about 72% of the budget of the median. But you're comparing our wages, you're trying to bring our wages to a median. So I would say, wait a minute, we could argue that we're only doing 72% of the work of a median council. Then we're getting way overpaid, quite frankly. When you look at population, we're about 2% less than the median. And it's actually people that create the work, not the size of the budget. So that's where I was, one of the questions I had. If we're simply comparing apples to apples, we're not talking apples to apples, we're talking very different municipalities with different responsibilities and that sort of stuff. I appreciate the work you've done, I'm just not sure that it's as simple as what's the median of what these 13 have done. If we had done a survey across the province, I think it would be maybe a different number again. On the other hand, I do think the council and mayor should get paid a reasonable amount. Can you help me understand what the polarization of the public has to do with compensation for councillors? That's one of the reasons. Go ahead, sorry.
So if I may, actually, I don't think you can see me in the camera now, so I'll just scooch a little bit. If I may answer, I think the first question was more to do with the validity of the comparator group. Is that correct? Okay. Yeah, so I think we had used very similar comparators as was used in the previous market review, which I suspect have been approved by earlier terms of council. The one criteria that you've noticed is the operating budget, but we do look at several other criteria as well, including population. So when we're including those comparators, it isn't just a single criteria that we're looking at. So we're not sure that, the comparator group is inaccurate. We think that it's fairly consistent to previous processes. And then your second question was on polarization and how that affects the honorarium. The goal of that slide and that piece in the report was really intended to show the evolution of the role of members of council over the years and how things have changed. And that, you know, politics don't look the same necessarily even at the municipal level. It may or may not impact honorarium, but it has had impact overall in the role of a member of council generally. We're, you know, and all of those things play into what we're seeing our members of council managing, not just at Southwest Oxford, but other municipalities as well. Did I answer that question okay? The first one being questioning the criteria and the comparator group, and then the second was the question about polarization. Hopefully, if I'm not quite clear, please let me know.
So that's fair. I just, if you're going to use a comparative group, and we are 72% of their budget, of the median, then the question becomes, well, shouldn't we be at the bottom end of the pay scale rather than be the median? And that's sort of, I realize population, which would be the one I would focus on, would be we're only 2% or something less than the median. It's a case of, if you provide the information, then it's how do you analyze that information that becomes the question, right? And it's simply saying we're going to the middle, then quite frankly, population or budgets don't actually matter. Just say, what's everybody get paid? That's what we're taking the middle of that. So, and I think it should be somewhat related to size of overall budget and all that as well. So, read the polarization. I think that's part of the, and would not disagree with you at all, that the polarization of society is, we get to see it on a fairly regular basis. So I'm not opposed to that being included. I'm just not sure that having people that are more polarized or less polarized should not change the workload of someone as far as making decisions based on the best of community or best for community. So final question then. Historically, council has always had for as long pretty much as I've been on council, which is a long time, that the mayor the council members get 2/3 of whatever the mayor gets. And this has changed this time. It's I'm just wondering, was that ever part of the conversation, or are you simply picking meetings?
Not sure we were aware of that framework that was in place. So essentially the market data, this is a very evidence-based report. We're providing the median calculation based on the policy that we have for pay. That framework of having a member of council, a percentage or a ratio to the mayor salary or honorarium, we did not apply that. We weren't aware of that being a framework. We can check though. That is definitely something we're able to look back to.
So I'm not sure that it's mandatory. I think it's just been practiced. Go ahead, Julie.
It isn't part of township policy or anything like that. I believe it may have been a bit of the rationale among council when the new bylaws have been set beginning at each term of council. But this time, if council will recall, we have historically only compared within Oxford County. And so this time, knowing that we were anticipating some change on council, we wanted to do a comparison to see how we compare to some of our neighbors as well, similar to the comparator group that we use for staff compensation. But that the 2/3 compared to what the mayor isn't actually in township policy.
It's in practice. Yeah. No, as I say, I wouldn't say it's compulsory. I just said that's what we've done for as long as I've been on council. So, all right, further questions? Councillor Pickard and Councillor Young.
Well, the other factor here, and we haven't talked about this in the past, is that our council is larger than many of the comparators. That we have 6 councillors normally. which in fact would reduce our workload because there'd be fewer reporting to each council. So I wonder if that's a factor that we should be taking into consideration.
Any comments from Warden Upgrove?
Happy to answer that question as well. We didn't see it as super relevant. Happy to dig a little bit deeper into that though. Oftentimes, the workload doesn't necessarily vary. Everyone's got to read the same council agendas and preparation required. So generally, we're not necessarily seeing a change in workload. However, if that's the case with Southwest Oxford, we'd love to hear a little bit more about that, and can provide a very evidence-based analysis comparison of the comparator groups, or comparator group, how many members of council each of those comparators may have. And then we do often look at total expenses as well. Those are public documents that we can access for every comparator, and absolutely happy to provide further analysis if that would be of use to this group.
Yeah, I think that is something that should be taken into consideration. So what is the total cost of council in Southwest Oxford as compared to large other councils that are maybe smaller? Are we an expensive council already because we have 7 members compared to a council that has a mayor and 4 councilors?
So you have in Oxford, Zora and Norwich. And what is that, about 5, yeah. So 3 councils have 5 and 2 have 7. So, I would argue though, I wouldn't argue, I would suggest though, that a difference is that, a number of our councillors also sit on a number of committees, particularly around recreation and that sort of stuff, for all boards and that other councils don't. Right? Now, they sit on other committees, but, I think we have more than, just virtually everybody's on at least 2 different volunteer committees. It's part of your workload.
Yeah, that's
Councillor, you were next, and then we'll come back to that. Julie's up to something like this.
Yeah, to Councillor Pickard's point, it might be interesting to look at our cost of council per capita. You know, the number of residents that we have versus some of the other comparators, we see where our costs are at. In the second point, in the conclusion slide, it talks about competitive honoraries, province participation, and I really question the validity of that statement. I don't know that an extra $1,600 is going to get somebody else to stick their name in for council to consider running. I think it's more of a sense of civic duty that drives people to seek positions on council. I don't think the honorarium is necessarily part of that decision-making process. I understand from the report that the increase that we're looking at is nominal. It only makes a difference of 0.04% of our annual budget. But every budget discussion, every savings that we have to achieve has to start somewhere. And it goes right down to some of the grants that we offer some of our community partners, where we shave $500 or $1,000 off of some of the requests during the budget process. So even though this is a nominal change in our overall budget, it's still another $14,000 that we're talking about, which is effectively 20% or 1/5 of 1% tax increase again. Last year, we just absorbed a 6% tax increase due to the closure of a large manufacturing facility in the area, and we had to pass that on to our residents. Now we're looking at increasing council honorariums at a time when a lot of people are having to make difficult decisions around their own personal finances. And I don't know that this is the time for that. I don't think it's going to increase participation in council. And I just think the optics are all wrong, similar to the corporate jet that a certain local government purchased and then quickly offloaded. I get that we want to make these decisions ahead of the new council coming in. But at the same time, I don't know that this is the time for it, and I think savings have to start somewhere, so I would recommend that we not implement this.
Good. Any other comments? Go ahead, Councilor.
So my comment kind of goes around the fact that you already mentioned the difference between the mayor and the councillor. And basically, that in the past, we basically did a third more, and that was kind of our recommended practice. I think that's the bigger difference that jumps out on this piece of paper. It ain't like your $1,600 is one thing, but then you go to 4,500 is another. I kind of wonder whether that's too much. I kind of thought before looking at the report, if it said, you know, an increase of $1,000 or $1,200, I was like, probably could live with that. But then when I started going over that, I'm like, I don't know. I do have some of the same comments that Councillor Eamon has. It is challenging to say everybody, hey, you have to pay more if we're not willing to save ourselves. I feel that it's not necessarily a financial thing that makes people want to apply for these positions. But obviously at the same factor, there does have to be a compensation there. To compensate not being at work or during that time when you're at meetings and at function, that you could have been at your other job, supporting your family.
I think there's a fine balance, so other comments? I guess, word up, the other comment I have, and it was kind of Yetman and I are kind of lined up here. I'm not sure that it matters so much to get paid at the end of the day, because I don't think we can buy, or I don't think we should buy people into the positions. You should do it because you actually want to do it, and you get compensated a fair amount because you do it. And quite frankly, I don't know about the rest of you, but I certainly feel that I'm perfectly adequately compensated at the right now. In fact, I'm probably more than compensated for my willingness to serve. On the other hand, I do think that people do deserve, and there are people who take time off work who, you know, they could have stayed home and planted another acre of corn, or done some more work in in the yard or whatever, that they do deserve to be recognized and supported. So it is, in my case, it's a balancing thing all the time. What's a fair rate? And I actually, kind of playing with the numbers there, I actually wondered if you agreed to an increase to the counselors, and I used 50% of the number that they had suggested, which I think was $1,600. If you had $800 to council and added $1,200 to for mayors, that would report, both $6,000 difference. So, anyways, I want to first of all appreciate the work done on this. It's a case of what's fair and adequate, remembering that it doesn't matter what we say, because the next council can do whatever they want, right? And they could use this report and say, hey, we're being way underpaid. I think we're being more than adequately paid now. So. Other comments? Councilor Booker.
I think, yeah, we can bump up our payouts or per diems or whatever you want to call it. But in the long run, the government's just gonna take it back anyway. Because I'm gonna end up paying more taxes. So, it's one of those things like Pete Gibbons says, or Councilor Gibbons said, we're doing it not really for the money. We're doing it because it's our civic duty and we feel obliged to do that. So that's my take on it.
Councilor Becker.
Yeah, I agree with what's being said. I have no interest, in a pay increase. I'm not here for the money. But, I sit here and there's something on my mind that's coming down the road and we haven't talked about it. And this is not the time to talk about it. I'm just gonna mention it in passing. is that we are looking at another large tax increase in 2027. As Councilor Yip has said, this is part and parcel of the same deal.
Good. Any further discussion? I will send it back for the closed session later on.
I will roll for this next, so that we take over to the presentation.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5 minute break and then come back to close.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on this then, on council remuneration? We'll make, some discussion, or we'll further deliberate on it when we're done in closed session. Okay, so, let's take a 5 minute break and then we'll come back to closed session.